you don't like this, and your girlfriends wanted to words, trying to get a construction. That was funny, Jay.
Tell your lady friend your name that you made up last week, bro. I'm sure.
All right, Madam Mayor, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yep, we're ready when you are.
Great. Well, let's start with Andrea. Go ahead.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Andrea. I'm here with the Community Language Cooperative. We're going to be practicing language justice in this space where we can speak and hear in the language that we feel more comfortable in. For this meeting, we're going to provide simultaneous interpretation in English and in Spanish. If you are in Zoom, once I'm done saying this message in Spanish, you're going to see a globe popping up at the bottom of your screen. Or if you're on your phone or tablet, you're going to see 3 little dots over it says more, and there you're going to be able to select your language. If you are not fully bilingual in English and Spanish, please select the language so that you can hear everything that is being said. Hola a todos, mi nombre es Andrea, estoy aquí con la Community Language Cooperative. Vamos a estar practicando la justicia del lenguaje en este espacio donde podamos hablar y escuchar en el idioma en el que nos sintamos más cómodos. Vamos a tener interpretación simultánea en inglés y en español, y cuando aprendamos la interpretación vas a ver un mapamundo en la parte inferior de tu pantalla, o si estás en tu teléfono o tableta vas a ver 3 punticos donde dice más o more, y ahí vas a poder seleccionar tu idioma. I do remind everybody to please speak at a conversational pace. Spanish is 20 to 25% longer than English, so it takes me longer to say everything that you're saying in English into Spanish. And please remember to remain muted when you're not speaking and to speak close to your microphone when it's your turn to speak. For those that are going to be presenting and are going to be using the packet, please remember to point me in the packet if you're like jumping pages so that I can follow along with you. Les recuerdo a todos que por favor hablen a un paso conversacional para que yo pueda interpretarlo todo correctamente, que se mantengan en silencio cuando no estén hablando y que hablen muy cerquita a su micrófono cuando sea su turno de hablar. And we are ready to, actually 1 second before we begin interpretation. At some point we're going to have speakers in the room that are going to speak in Spanish. When that happens, we're going to use consecutive interpretation. So they're going to speak in Spanish, they're going to pause, and then I'm going to repeat everything in English, and we're going to take turns, just so that you guys know. And we can begin interpretation now.
Thank you. I'll call to order this City Council work session for February 27th, 2023. The time is 6:06 p.m. And I'm obviously remote. I have a cold and I didn't feel like sharing that with all of you. I'm going to keep it to myself. And Desiree Stang had a work meeting, but she's expecting to be present for our regular meeting later. The first tonight we have our sustainability coordinator presentation.
Hello, Mayor and City Council members. Great to be here with you all tonight. My name is Mel England, and I am the City of Sheridan's new Sustainability Coordinator as of January of this year. And I will be leading the discussion tonight around sustainability for this study session. Next slide, please. So the agenda for tonight is I'm going to give you all an introduction of myself so you can get to know me a little bit better. I'm going to go over a timeline for 2023 of what you can expect from me in my position. We're going to go into defining sustainability and then establishing a vision for sustainability. And then we're going to end the night with any lingering questions that any of you may have. Next slide. All right, so to kick things off, one thing about me is I will use any opportunity to show a picture of my dog, Ellie Mae, and that is her on the right. But I am originally from the Midwest, about 40 minutes north of Chicago. I have my bachelor's of science in sustainable business from a college in Grand Rapids, Michigan. After I graduated, I worked in the field for about 4 years, doing a range of positions from marketing and outreach for an energy efficiency company to grant writing. But it wasn't really until I served in AmeriCorps alongside public sector folks that I really fell in love with local government. I knew that that's what I wanted to do. So shortly after, I entered into grad school in 2020. What a year. I got my master's of the environment and urban resilience and sustainability from CU Boulder. And then in January 2022, I accepted a position as the sustainability coordinator for the city of Englewood, which I'm still at today. So in the beginning of my grad school experience, I had a professor who had us do this early exercise where we had to write our personal mission and vision, i.e. kind of like why the heck were we in grad school? And I put that up there because I think the words still really resonate to me today and really give you an example of what I hope to kind of accomplish in this role. So I put that my personal mission is to reignite civic engagement and pride within a community through education, outreach, smart programs and policies, and open dialogues involving all voices for proper representation about how to build resilience within the economy, environment, and people. And then I had kind of this overarching vision for my vision is one where all communities are able to thrive and really weave strong social fabrics, constantly evolving and adapting to best create wealthy, welcoming, and just places for people to call home. So just a little bit about me. Next slide. So the timeline for 2023 for me and my role, and this is tentative, this can always change. But for Q1, what I'm currently doing is a gap analysis of sustainability programs and projects that Sheridan currently has and ones that maybe are lacking. Tonight, we're going to be defining sustainability as a group. And I've also been doing internal and external interviews with relevant stakeholders to Sheridan. In Q2, we're going to host a community event, which is still TBD, to gather feedback from the community on the draft sustainability plan. And also to kind of understand what the residents would like to see the sustainability plan house for Sheridan. And then in Q2, we're also going to do some mini draft presentations to kind of hone those feedback in. For Q3, we're going to incorporate those edits, hopefully have adoption of the plan, and then Q4 really is going to be about implementation. Next slide. So the next step is a really important step, and this is defining sustainability. And having City Council set the definition of sustainability is really important because a lot of people and organizations define and think about sustainability very differently. And so having a set definition will really help the community understand what lens the city of Sheridan is looking through when we're analyzing projects and initiatives in the sustainability plan. Next slide. And so a few weeks ago, I sent out a survey to City Council to kind of help guide the conversation for tonight. And one of the questions was around, it listed 5 definitions from Colorado communities who defined sustainability. It ranged from extremely brief to very robust. And it was a unanimous choice that the more robust definitions were what we were kind of looking for. And then there was another question of kind of, all right, from your top pick that you had, what do you feel like is missing for Sheridan's definition? And what was said was, addressing current environmental issues that need to be resolved, emphasizing criticality of immediate action and remediation, moving towards sustainable energy choices, involving community and goals, and to maintain. Next slide. And so from that feedback, I drafted up a definition for Sheridan. That is sustainability is taking an intersectional approach to Sheridan's environmental, economic, and social systems and problem solving in order to effectively and efficiently address and remedy past issues while also cultivating a resilient and adaptive and innovative community. And so I want to pause right here temporarily just to kind of get a feel from City Council. Does this reflect kind of what you were hoping for a definition for Sheridan? Any comments or feedbacks on things that you would like to change from this proposed definition?
I feel like it gets a little hard to read and understand when you get to problem solving. So I wonder if it might be more clear to just take that out and have it say, and effectively and efficiently addressing and remedying past issues.
Okay. Any other comments, feedback? Thank you, and thank you all for your feedback already. I know this is a second look at it, so. Great, perfect. I'll incorporate those comments. Can we go to the next slide? And so the next is really establishing the vision for Sheridan. This also is in the survey. So, what does City Council envision sustainability in Sheridan to even look like or be? And so from that survey, the responses were sustainable development, leveraging funding sources, circular economy, safe and clean public spaces, and growing Sheridan's business space. And so from that feedback, I did a draft vision for Sheridan for sustainability. And it is Sheridan will be a city that fully leverages and engages with public, private, and nonprofit partners to help sustainably develop a community that is clean, safe, prosperous, and restorative for those who live, work, and visit here today and in the future. And similar to the definition, I want to take a pause here just to see if there's any feedback, any edits, or anything that you all would like to be made to this vision statement.
I think that sounds really good. I like that and the definition. I think it looks like you incorporated the items that council suggested. So thanks for that.
Mel, I also think you did a good job with a lot of this in capturing some of the work that council had done previously, doing our goal setting sessions and doing some of that kind of stuff. And I think that really does, this helps capture a lot of that as well and incorporates that. So thank you.
That's what I like to hear.
That's good.
The only thing that I don't know how you would add it in or incorporate our continued work with our surrounding cities, partnering with them as well. And because we work with them in so many different things. So it kind of includes that as well, because that's, I think, a part of being sustainable. Since we share a river and a couple of highways, railroad and light rail, I think adding something that can kind of capture that we also, want to continue our partnerships with our neighboring cities. I mean, it might be something as simple as that.
Sally, where were you thinking of trying to capture that?
Well,
Because
and I don't know. I don't know if it
yeah,
maybe in the well, it would either have to be in the definition or in the vision, right?
What they could be if it's captured and fully leverage and engage with public partners. So public sector partners being those other communities that Sheridan
Or
interacts
it could
with.
just be, a helpful definition to add to that. I mean, if we're gonna throw it out there so that, if you're reading it somewhere in the, online or whatever, you understand that part of our public partnership is with our neighbors.
I think maybe we can look at that vision statement there and look at inserting municipal partners or something in there along those lines, Mel. That would capture it, I would think.
Oh, there you go.
There you go.
Municipal, that'll work.
Okay.
Like
Yeah,
some-
or change it to like municipal, business, and nonprofit to make it a little more layperson language.
Any others? Great. Well, next slide. Now, I told you I have to fit Ellie Mae in as much as possible. Now is really open for questions. I have been here since January, so not a ton has happened in the 2 months, but happy to answer anything that I can around sustainability for Sheridan.
I don't have any questions. I'm happy that you're on board and can't wait to see what happens in the future for Sheridan.
Thank you.
Yep.
So where are you at in this process with Englewood? Just out of curiosity.
Did you say with Englewood?
Yeah, like, if you have a timeline for them, like, where are you at in that timeline?
Yeah, so it's very interesting because Englewood and Sheridan are in completely different areas or processes for sustainability. So when I was hired on with Englewood, they already had a sustainability plan already created. And we've been kind of, as the years go, we refine it, we hone it in, we add more targets, because let me tell you, baseline data for sustainability plans is quite a time sucker. So we're already in the implementation phase and have been for a while. Something that we're working on right now. So last year, actually, we finished our greenhouse gas reporting. We did a lot of work actually with some students. We had some interns helping us. And we did a lot of education and outreach for internal folks around recycling. And then we also launched the city's first ever EV action plan, which we're actually finalizing this year in April. And we're doing just, chipping away at all those projects in the plan.
Cool. And I assume you've already gotten to know everybody at the city that you're gonna be working with here.
Yes. They're amazing.
Great. Well, I know everybody's excited to have you on board because this is definitely one of our focuses, one of our main goals for this year. So welcome.
Thank you so much.
Anybody have any other questions for Mel or comments? No? Okay, well, I guess we'll let you go. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. So we have time for a review of our agenda items. Do you want to take that away, Devin?
I do, Mayor. Let me switch screens on my computer. Moment. Okay. So in looking at your agenda for this evening, I do want to touch base on each of your action items that you have for this evening. We'll start with the first ordinance. It's ordinance number 1 of 2023. And this is an ordinance that is concerning the issuance of protective orders. One of the things that we came across in working with our courts and our police department, and then looking at some of the functions that we have in our municipal court as compared to the district court, was the ability to issue protective orders. And the thing that really brought it to our attention that we wanted to try and address was in a discussion, I believe, that the police department had with the district attorney's office on the issue of dealing with protective orders, is that the county, or I should say the district court, is currently looking at almost 8 weeks, I believe, Chief, it was, to issue a protective order. Right, which is pretty significant. Now, this order is found in the section of our code and in dealing with the courts that deals with domestic violence, other issues along those lines. So it's kind of frightening when you think that somebody that might need a protective order would probably begin in the district court, but they could be upwards of 8 weeks waiting to get such a thing. Now, municipal courts can order, and municipal judges can order protective orders, but we have to make sure that we specifically call out and define what our definition of protective order is and who can issue them. So we have to pass an ordinance such as this that says that the judge for a municipal court can issue these same types of orders. And so that's the reason for this. In municipal courts all over Colorado and elsewhere issue protective orders on a regular basis. We just realized that in our code, we didn't have the provisions that would allow our municipal court and the municipal judge to be able to do that and give somebody that option if they wanted to go through a municipal court. Chief, is there something else or anything else that I think that's kind of broad strokes, but
Actually, it was the 6 to 8 weeks could be how long it took to process a misdemeanor or a minor charge. Sometimes with that comes a protection order that will need to be going along with that, and that's where the delay would be. But protection order, somebody could go to the county and get a protection order rather fast. But a lot of times we like to keep things, of course, more centrally located for our victims. So in a domestic violence case or something of that nature, a person could come to the community court instead of having to go to the county court. So it's just an option that we didn't have. Most municipalities have that option, and we were lacking in it. So we thought that we would look at revising that so that our judge would have the powers to do so.
And then, thank you, Chief. The other thing that it does is really, so authorizes the municipal court and the judge to be able to do this. And then changes, you'll see the language in the ordinance also changes all references to mandatory restraining order, which used to be referred to now to protective order. So those are the two main things that this ordinance does. Be happy to answer any questions that the council might have about this. It's on your agenda tonight for first reading. And in first reading, we don't have any, we don't take any public testimony on that. So it'll just be a first reading, and then second reading would be at your subsequent meeting. So happy to answer any questions that council might have about this. Thoughts that you might have about this ordinance.
No,
Sounds like-
I think
Oh, go
it's
ahead.
a really good idea. Like, because if you're having to wait a lot can happen in
Potentially.
8 weeks. I mean, if you're seeking a protective order against someone who's, been violent towards you, you'd really want that to happen immediately, not 8 weeks from now.
Yeah.
So,
And I think to the chief's point, this gives you the option to go to a municipal court.
yeah, and be able
If
to,
that might work better for your particular situation, for whatever reason that person might be seeking that type of an order.
right.
Mayor, this is Bahayashi. Can I make a comment?
Yeah, please, go ahead.
So the issue is not so much with the delay of the county courts in getting the protective orders. The issue for the delay has more to do with other matters that the district court does. But what this does is to issue these, the council must authorize the court to do it, and it's authorizing the court to do it. And the procedure for the civil protection orders are set forth in Article 14 of the Colorado Revised Statute. So the municipal court would be following the procedure that the county court uses. It just allows us to do it on the local level.
Gotcha.
So excuse me, is our judge familiar with that? And is he going to be ready to be able to do that?
I would assume, given his experience, that he is familiar with it, because the process has been in place for quite a period of time.
Do we need to kind of close that circle with him and just make sure
Well,
he's,
Oops, I'm sorry. Yes, Mayor, we'll make sure to do that before second reading.
thanks.
Mhm.
I think it's a great idea to be able to provide that service to people, to give them an alternative venue. Anybody else have questions on this ordinance? No.
Okay, if there's no other questions, then the next item that you'll have on your agenda for action is another ordinance on first reading. Let me get there on my computer. This is an ordinance that amends our existing ordinances and language around weapons and the prohibition of possession of concealed firearms in designated city buildings and other sensitive places. So the city currently has language around weapons and where they can be carried in municipal buildings. The language around that is, to our opinion, after reviewing it, not specific enough around the issue of concealed weapons. And so what this ordinance does is make a change to be very specific that concealed weapons of all sorts, including firearms, are not permissible. It may not be carried on any facility or building or park that the city owns. And so it's just really more clarifying language. It adds clarifying language as to what is considered. I mean, we have a current definition for deadly weapons and what those are. This adds to that and clarifies to that definition. And then also, as I said, adds to the language and clarifies that concealed firearms in designated buildings or locations under the control of the city are prohibited. And then it goes, and if you look at your draft in section 3, it gets very specific and says any building owned or operated by the city, or any public parks or playgrounds owned and operated or managed by the city. And then we get into within 500 feet of polling locations. That language is already in our ordinance, I believe. So just making sure that we're being very clear about what is considered a deadly weapon and where it can be or may not be carried. So that is the purpose of this, is really to clean up our language and make sure that it's very clear. Be happy to answer any questions. Bill, is there anything else additional, or Chief, that we need to add to that?
What I'd like to say is, so the really crux of this is last year, the legislature allowed municipalities to impose restrictions on concealed carry for areas which were under their jurisdiction and under their control. That it's not quite as broad because we're still bound by the federal law, and the most recent case was the Bruin case. So we have to act in conjunction with what the state law allows us within the permitted locations and quote sensitive areas that are addressed in the Supreme Court case. And so that's what this ordinance does. We had prohibited open carry for some time in virtually all city facilities, and because it wasn't clear that we had the authority to do it for concealed, but now we have the authority to do it for concealed firearms also, with the exception that it would not apply to peace officers or others who are allowed to carry under federal or state law, concealed and in the terms of public safety personnel.
Sure, my mic's on. The other thing that this changes or makes clear from our existing ordinance on this is that parks are included. So city parks that we have that are owned and operated by the city. Now we have several parks that are owned and maintained by South Suburban Parks and Rec, and they have their own rules that govern those parks and do not allow the carry of concealed or open carry on their parks as well. So this will make city parks consistent with the rules and regulations that govern the parks that are in Sheridan that are part of the South Suburban district.
Do we have these same locations outlined for the open carry as well?
Yes, the open
Say that again,
carriers
Mayor.
are pretty broad. It's in the ordinance in the weapons section. So it's in Article 9.
Okay. Is
But
it
this
broad?
allows us to expand upon those restrictions to include conceal. That's
Okay.
really what the principle there is. Though you could still be arguably broader on the open carry as to the concealed by the Supreme Court's decision.
Okay. We have other questions?
Okay. If
Okay.
there's no other questions, again, that's the basics of that ordinance. That again is on first reading tonight. And then second reading would be, and public hearing would be at your subsequent meeting. The last action item that you have there This is a resolution for approving the first amended intergovernmental agreement between the Tri-Cities. And this is for the development of a Tri-Cities homelessness coordinator position. So council will recall that you already approved a intergovernmental agreement in IGA with the Tri-Cities, which is Sheridan, Inglewood, and Littleton, for the development of a Tri-Cities homelessness coordinator position. What this does, this is the first amendment that we have, and restates the agreement. And really, I can point to you, the only changes that we're making have to do with some of the financing aspects of this. So if you go to, let me get there. Page 2 of the IGA, which is actually page 54 of your packet. And we get into the roles of the parties that are involved. You go to section B where it talks about the roles of the cities. Really the newest aspect of what the change of this has to get into the subsections of B, subparagraph B, where we talk about increasing local government staff capacity based on each municipality's needs. That would be budgeted at $15,000. Item 2 would create a Tri-Cities webpage on this. That's budgeted at $5,000. Create a lived experience advisory board. That's budgeted at $10,000. Strengthen outreach to landlords. That's budgeted at $25,000. And then streamline volunteer and giving opportunities, which is budgeted at $10,000. And finally, create an online platform to request services budgeted at $10,000. Now, I don't expect you to remember, but all of these items are items that were identified in the work plan that was reviewed and approved by the Tri-Cities, the 3 councils of the Tri-Cities, as well as the county board. And so all of these items were included. We just didn't have the numbers put together with those particular items in the work plan. So what this does is just put the numbers in the budget numbers to those items. And then that allows the municipalities to go back to this item as a funding mechanism and determine how and where those dollars go to. So it's really just clarifying that, yes, we're still going to do these items, and this now is how much it's going to cost. And so that's the only changes, is putting the cost to those items. Other than that, the IGA is the same as was approved previously by all 3 councils and the county. So, any questions about that?
Just to make it real clear, so we're paying out of that 75,000, we're paying 7,500, right?
Yes, Mayor. Right. When you break down the overall budget amount for the one-time funding for the plan of action, which was $75,000, yes. Our portion of that is $7,500. Inglewood and Littleton have both agreed to pay $33,750. And then there's the further breakout that's identified in the IGA there. And that also is just to be clear that we were comfortable authorizing monies at this time to move forward with those particular items in the work plan. Any other questions about the IGA? Okay. With that, those were your action items for your agenda this evening. We also have a report we're required to do, presentations. And when I say presentations, we're required to present to council, which you have in your packets. Some of the numbers and get there right there. The fund position for a volunteer firefighters pension fund. So we report those numbers to council on a regular basis, and we're required to do it, I think, at least twice a year. So this is the presentation. These numbers are here. Teresa, I'm not sure if she's on the phone right now, but if anyone on council had questions at this point about anything on the report from the volunteer fire pension fund, I'm sure she could answer that. We'll also go over it on your agenda. You have a chance to ask any questions at that point as well. But yeah, so we required to present the numbers right there. There's no action for council on this agenda items. It's just a report to council. And Mayor, that I believe is it for our agenda items this evening and the review of.
Okay. Since we have some time, do you want to cover any of your manager report items?
I'm sorry, Mayor, could you say that again?
Since we have time, do you want to cover any of your manager's report?
I'd be happy to. What do we got? I've got time to do that. You bet. Let me switch gears here. So wanted to touch base on a couple items that have been under discussion lately in the regional level. One of them is Proposition 123 or 123. This is a proposition that was approved by the Colorado voters that creates a statewide affordable housing fund. And we as a municipality have been looking at this as hopefully an opportunity for us and partners as well. We received a couple of different, I know the mayor received an update at the mayor's caucus meeting on this, and then the city managers received an update on this item as well at our regional meeting with Dr. Cog. And I'm not going to go into too much detail at this time. I'm really just kind of real brief background and just an update on where we are in process, I think, right now. So again, Proposition 123 created a statewide affordable housing fund. And how it does that fund through using existing revenue from a tax on 0.1% of federal taxable income in the state. It takes that bucket of money and breaks it out into two different buckets of money. One that's going to be used for affordable housing financing fund, and another bucket that will be the affordable housing support fund. Okay, the affordable housing financing fund, that is going to be covers about 60% of the overall fund, and it will be distributed to OEDIT, which is the Office of Economic Development and International Trade. They have basically contracted with CHAFA, which is the Colorado Housing and Finance Authority, to administer those funds on their behalf. And again, that will be for a financing fund for housing. 40% of that fund will then be distributed to DOLA in their division of housing, and that's going to be used again for a housing support fund. Some of the real broad criteria that you have to look at if you're looking at wanting to tap into these funds is that for rental housing, it has to be rental housing that is equal to or less than 60% of the AMI, the area medium income. That's for rental, so at 60% or below. If it's rental housing, if it's for sale housing, it can be at 100% of AMI or below. Let's see if there's something else that's need to communicate there. And it should be designated or set up, the product should be set up that where it is the rent or the mortgage payment should cost less than 30% of the buyers or renters monthly income. Now, the financing fund that I mentioned, it's going to be, again, that's going to be administered by CHAFA. They're going to be doing three different primary efforts along for those monies. One of them is going to be land banking. So they're looking at taking 15 to 25% of the fund and putting it towards land banking. This could be grants to local governments and forgivable loans to nonprofits for acquisition of properties. There'll be an equity program. It's going to be about 40 to 70% of the program. You can see some of these percentages are pretty wide, so they're really still trying to feel out quite a bit of this. But this equity program will look at investment in permanently affordable multifamily rental developments and building tenant equity in those developments. And then there'll be a debt program, around 15 to 35%. And this will be for financing low and middle income multifamily rental developments. Okay, the other fund that I mentioned, the support fund that will be administered through DOLA, that's going to be broken up, about half of it to home ownership. And so this is going to be primarily down payment assistance, and then could also be grants for mobile home park purchases. There's going to be up to 45% of that fund towards homelessness. This will be for rental assistance, housing vouchers, eviction defense, and then potentially grants for supportive housing and other activities. And then there's a small up to about 5% that could be used for planning capacity. So this would be for local governments to use towards, I'm trying to figure out and do some planning on how you could best use the funds. So all great stuff. Where we are right now is that we're in the process. What I'm not going to go into too much detail is the criteria for qualifying for use of this. There's quite a bit of things that the local governments that want to take advantage of this program or these various programs and monies would have to do to qualify. There are provisions within your land use code that you have to look at adopting. There are fast tracking processes in your development review process that you need to look at adopting. There are a number of things along those kind of lines. There are commitments as to how many units you would bring on per year. So it's pretty extensive, and that's going to take pretty much from now towards around the last or towards the end of this year, and to get a lot of that stuff done. But where we are right now is trying to determine a baseline for each of the jurisdictions that could potentially take advantage of these monies. So they're looking at working with locals to try and determine, okay, where is what would be established as a baseline of affordable units in your jurisdiction. And there's a lot of different ways you can kind of go about doing that. And varies by, the size of municipality, different issues like that. So I just want to communicate to council. That's what our staff is busy on doing. Andrew and his staff are working on this right now on trying to put together, a good solid data set that will help us set our baseline. And then that baseline helps determine your eligibility or some of your eligibility for applying for these funds. That you would, based on your baseline, you have to do a certain number of units per year. It basically comes down to about 3% increase in the number of units that you have per year for 3 years, and a 9% overall increase. And I don't want to get too far into the weeds because some of this could change too. So there's legislation now in the State House right now that's floating around that could potentially change some of these criteria or how some of this is administered as well. So that's something that we're keeping an eye on as well. But wanted to bring it to council's attention because it's a hot topic right now among locals. And it's really because CHAFA and DOLA have just come out within the past week or so with some of this initial direction on where they're going and working with locals on this. So you might hear other folks, some of your contemporaries that or other people in the community talking about Prop 123. And is Sheridan doing this? Are we on it? Yes, we are. We're keeping track of this. We're doing the work we need to do, and hopefully, I'm very hopeful we'll be able to take advantage of this, possibly with some of the units that our housing authority is looking at doing on some of the properties that they have. So some of that would be potentially some very good things. There's also some of the efforts around homelessness with Tri-Cities that could potentially use or tap into these funds as well. So it's great. We're happy to see this. We're happy to see that the state's moving forward. And we'll make sure that we're keeping track of where we need to be to make sure that we're eligible to take advantage when that becomes available. The other item I wanted to update council on, has been some discussion, and I've talked about this a little bit before, has to do with discussions down at the State House with regards to land use and affordable housing. And this all stemmed from some comments that the governor made in his State of the State speech with regards to efforts that he would like to see for promoting more housing, more affordable housing in the state. And the heartburn is the details of that. How is that going to work? How would that be? Would there be a widespread preemption at the state level of local land use authority, which, as you guys know, has been an issue with locals, the Colorado Municipal League, Colorado counties, and others for preserving local land use authority and making sure that decisions with regards to zoning and housing take place at the local level and not on a statewide level. Now, to that order, I think that the locals are trying to put together, at least here at Arapahoe County, we've been having discussions at the city manager and staff levels with regards, okay, how or what do we address these issues as they come up in the State House? One of the difficulties right now is that there's not a bill yet. So there's a lot of discussions. And there's a team from the governor's office that is meeting with folks and going and kind of doing a listening tour, those kind of efforts that are going on right now. So we're trying to just determine, all right, how do we communicate in Arapahoe County with our state legislators and others, some very specific items really around, all right, what are we already doing around affordable housing, which is quite a bit. What have we already done with our land use to try and facilitate those kinds of projects? Things along those lines. So our public information officers from all the cities have met. They've put together a communications plan that's in draft right now and will be reviewed by a subgroup of the Mayor's Managers and Commissioners group from Arapahoe County to look at doing just that, communicating what we've already done, how we're doing it, and how can the state help, rather than saying, hey, just don't state, leave us alone, don't do those kind of things. You can't do that. Let's say, hey, you know what would be helpful with some of the efforts that we're currently doing? This would be helpful if the state could do this. One big one out there, construction defects law. The state legislature could fix that, and that would be a huge, huge help for development of density and affordable housing around transit stops. Be a huge help. So there are items along those kind of lines that we at the local level are trying to identify so that we can then communicate those to our state legislatures as this goes through. I think this is going to be one of those items that kicks around through the whole session until the end. And we'll see if it ends up moving forward or not. It could break in, there's thoughts of or talk around an omnibus bill that's very large, or does it get broken out into different bills? There's other things floating around out there with rent control bills and other things out there. So it'll be very interesting to see. We're trying to keep an eye on that. And we're also, like I said, really trying to get our ducks in a row of how do we communicate that with our legislators to try and be proactive in working with them and saying, here's how it can help, right? In those efforts, so like I said, there is a communication plan that's really kind of been outlined. It's in draft format right now, but it's being finalized. There is going to be a delegation from the Mayor's Managers and Commissioners group, Arapahoe County, small delegation that will be going to the Capitol and having a lunch meeting with our legislators at the Capitol on March 24th. So there's going to be that outreach. And then on Thursday, March 30th, there's going to be a countywide telephone town hall on housing and land use in Arapahoe County, where there'll be some more discussions about here's some of the efforts that the various municipalities, the counties, and others are doing around land use specific to affordability for housing. So those are some of the initial efforts that we're working on. We'll start probably hear some of those. It's going to get this item is going to become more and more popular, and you'll hear more and more about it as we move through the legislative process. So I just want you to know we're part of that as well in making sure that our voices are heard as part of that. Let's see. I think, Mayor, Hold on. Trying to see which one of these we've already informed the council on or not. We had a meeting a couple weeks ago of our Tri-Cities Homeless Policy Committee, our steering committee for that. And one of the items that I thought was kind of fun, there's a lot of efforts going on around around the homeless and around affordable housing. And one of the items that Inglewood brought forward was doing a golf tournament at Broken Tee to raise money for the South Metro Community Foundation for the Navigation Center. And so they're looking at doing a charity golf tournament late summer, fall. We don't have a date yet, to try and raise additional monies for the Tri-Cities Navigation Center. I'll let you guys know when that is. Generally, the city has done a sponsorship or something along those lines for those efforts. I'll let you guys know though when I hear more about that. Talked about that and that. And I think that's it, Mayor. Be happy to answer any other questions.
Thank you. Anybody on council have questions? I don't hear anybody. Well, why don't we adjourn then at 6:54 p.m. and we'll reconvene, have a little break and reconvene at 7. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you for having us here and for practicing language justice. I am here with the Communal Language Co-op, and we are here to help create a space where everyone can participate and engage in the language of their heart or the language that they feel most comfortable in. We will use simultaneous interpretation to create this space. When I finish saying this in Spanish, we will turn on interpretation and you will see a globe icon that says interpretation. If you are not fully bilingual, please select your preferred language. If you are bilingual, feel free to listen to everyone in their language. When you select your language, you can check mute original audio so you don't hear both languages at the same time. Hola, muy buenas tardes. Muchas gracias por tenernos aquí por practicar la justicia del lenguaje. Mi nombre es Viria Sosa y estoy aquí con la Communal Language Co-op y estamos aquí para ayudar a crear un espacio donde todos puedan participar e involucrarse en el idioma de su corazón o en el idioma en el que se sientan más cómodos. Usaremos la interpretación simultánea para crear este espacio. Cuando termine de decir esto, activaremos la interpretación y verá un icono de globo que dice interpretación. Le pedimos que seleccione su idioma preferido. Cuando seleccione su idioma preferido, puede hacer clic en silenciar el audio original para que no escuche ambos idiomas al mismo tiempo. Thank you very much. Please go ahead and turn on interpretation. Muchas gracias.
Thank you, Maria. I'll call to order this regular meeting of the Sheridan City Council for February 27th, 2023. The time is 7:02 p.m. Can we have roll call, please? Right, we have all council members present. Can we please rise for the invocation followed by the Pledge of Allegiance?
Lent is the solemn Christian religious observance in the liturgical year commemorating the 40 days Jesus Christ spent fasting in the desert and enduring temptation by Satan, according to the Gospels of Matthew, Mark, and Luke, before beginning his public ministry. Lent began Wednesday, February 22nd, and will end Thursday, April 6th. And this is a Lenten prayer. Confession of sin. Lord Jesus, we come before you in humble confession. Help us conform our lives to you as the model for a holy and righteous living. Forgive us for our desire for personal greatness, for our attempts to make gods of ourselves, for our willingness to exalt ourselves at the expense of others, and for our resistance to serving one another as you have served us. Forgive us for making light of your obedience and sacrifice on the cross by living an undisciplined and indifferent Christian witness. Forgive us for yielding to fear rather than relying on your strength to take the risks of discipleship. Forgive us, dear Jesus, for times we have not looked to you as our Lord and for allowing the clamoring distractions of the world to become higher priorities than you. Forgive us for yielding more to the temptations of this world than being transformed by your lordship over our lives. Even now, declares the Lord, return to me with all your heart, with fasting and weeping and mourning. Rend your heart and not your garments. Return to the Lord your God, for he is gracious and compassionate, slow to anger, and abounding in love. Joel 2:12. Glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit, as it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be, world without end. Amen. Allegiance to the flag in the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice and
Do we have any changes to our agenda tonight?
No changes to the agenda, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. First item tonight is the financial reports. We'll receive and file the financial reports. I have a motion from Councilmember Whitaker, seconded by Councilmember Hall. Is there any discussion on the financial reports? Seeing none, can we have a vote, please? That motion is approved unanimously. Next, we have staff reports. City Clerk.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So CML registration has opened. The CML conference will be Sunday, June 25th to Wednesday, June 28th. It'll be held at the Gaylord of the Rockies. If you're interested in going, please let me know so we can get you registered and then get your hotel rooms booked. And it is a minimum 2-night stay if you want to stay at the hotel. Please let me know.
I'm letting you know right now.
I'll mark it down.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything else?
That's all, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. City Attorney.
Nothing to report, Mayor.
Thank you. You have anything additional, or City Manager?
I don't think so, Mayor. Just to let you know, one thing I didn't update on council, but I've talked about recently has been the Region 9 opioid meetings, and just the FYI, there's another one this week. We're meeting about almost weekly, maybe every other week or so, but be attending that this week as well, on behalf of the city. Other than that, I'd be happy to answer any questions, Mayor.
Okay. Chief, you have anything for us?
Just a quick update. July 8th will be the day for our Night Owls Sheridan Police Department car show, again over in Sheridan Community Park. As you know, last year we raised around $7,000 for our Sheridan schools and for the Student Assistance Fund. I'd like you all to think about maybe some ideas of a nonprofit in our city that we might look at distributing the money to this year. So think about it. There will probably be a few ideas, and we'll see if we can come up with a good one. So July 8th.
Thank you, Chief. All right, we'll move on to the minutes of the regular city council meeting of February 13th, 2023. I have a motion from Councilmember Hall, seconded by Councilmember Smith. Anybody have any questions on the minutes? All right, we'll vote then. That motion is approved unanimously. Next, we have the consent agenda, authorized disbursements that have been or will be made from February 1st, 2023 to February 15th, 2023 in the amount of $349,660.09 per the referenced and attached transfer of funds. I have a motion from Councilmember Smith, seconded by Councilmember Whitaker. Does anyone have any questions or comments on the consent agenda? No, we'll vote then. Thank you. Oh, it looks like Dallas has a question. Go ahead.
All right. Can you repeat that number that you spoke?
The sum,
Can you repeat that sum?
$349,660.09.
Okay. It's not what I have.
It's not what you have. This is on the revised city council packet 22723. I don't know if it changed between the original and the revised.
This is what's in front of us to vote on here.
City clerk, do we have a difference on the two different consent agenda amounts?
I'm comparing them right now, just a moment.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. It should be the amount of things. No. It's this one. Yeah, it didn't say when I put it in here. You just have to. My apologies. Open meeting has been reflected with the correct amount of $349,660.09
Thank you.
from February 1st to February 15th of 2023.
Thank you. Any other questions from council? Okay, cast your votes. That motion is approved unanimously. Next, we have items for individual consideration. An ordinance on first reading, ordinance number 1 of 2023. An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Sheridan, Colorado, amending sections 42-1 and 50-16 of the Sheridan Municipal Code regarding issuance of protective orders. I have a motion from Councilmember Smith and seconded by Councilmember Kelly. Any questions or discussions on ordinance number 1? Seeing none, let's vote. That motion is approved unanimously. Next, we have ordinance number 2 of 2023, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Sheridan, Colorado, amending Article 9, weapons of Chapter 50 of the Sheridan Municipal Code to prohibit the possession of concealed firearms in designated city buildings and other sensitive places. I have a motion by Councilmember Whitaker and seconded by Councilmember Daigle. Anybody have any questions or discussion on ordinance number 2? All right, we'll vote then. And that motion is approved unanimously. We have one resolution, resolution number 9 of 2023, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Sheridan, Colorado, approving the first amended intergovernmental agreement between the cities of Sheridan, Englewood, Littleton, and the County of Arapahoe, Colorado, for the development of a Tri-Cities homelessness coordinator position. We have a motion from Councilmember Kelly, seconded by Councilmember Daigle. Any discussion on resolution 9? All right, we'll cast votes then. That motion is approved unanimously. Next, we have the memo regarding the volunteer firefighters semi-annual report. Is there anything that you wanted to add to that memo, Ms. Adler?
So where we're looking at is on page 61 of your board packet. The volunteer fire is required twice a year to give their report to the city council. They do, that is required in February and August. The thought being that in February you would get year end, and in August you're going to get where it's at halfway through the year. So so that's what is happening here. So as you can see on page 61, where I'm looking at is the column that says actual January through December 2022. It's like the third column of numbers over. So what that first section is that's our checking account, and that's where the city deposits their $50,000 that then gets transferred on to FPPA, and you guys approve that every year during the budget. Then moving on down to the second section, this is the actual pension fund. And so where we're at there, as far as our ending fund balance is pretty close to where we had thought the adopted budget would be at. There's two big differences that actually happened this year. If you look at the net benefits, we always adopt that as a higher number. And then it comes in usually a little less, but we will make sure to have enough. But the other thing this year, with everything that's going on with inflation and everything, the unrealized gains were a negative 27,400. Again, that's an unrealized loss. It's not a realized loss, but we still have to show it. So we're still sitting very strong. We still ended with a $272,867 fund balance. So I'm not concerned at this point, but I just wanted to point that out, that why there was that large number there. So I'm happy to answer, sorry, I'm happy to answer any questions on the volunteer fire.
Thank you.
Right,
Anyone have
thank
any
you.
questions? Doesn't sound like there's any questions, so.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Next is mayor's choice. I had a few things I just wanted to follow up on. A couple were about the financials for this week. They aren't things that I needed to know to vote on it, but I wanted to ask about whether, sorry, I've got voting up here.
Madam Mayor, we have need a motion and a vote on the volunteer firefighter semi-annual report.
Oh, okay, sorry. Let's go ahead and get a motion then.
Huh. Well, just to accept it? Okay.
I didn't get any motions. We just got voting. Is that okay? Okay, let's back up. Okay, we've got a motion from Councilmember Hall and seconded by Councilmember Kelly. Now we can cast some votes. Waiting on someone. Oh, there we go. Motion is approved unanimously. Thank you. Sorry for going ahead into the next thing. So I wanted to ask about whether we feel like we're funding our capital improvement fund adequately. I know we haven't gone through it in a while. So maybe that's just kind of a tickler, to you, Mr. Granberry, to maybe we should have a discussion about that. Are we feeling like we're putting aside enough in there to be able to support our needs?
Okay.
Yeah.
And Devin, we did talk about this a little bit.
Right.
Okay.
We have it on the calendar.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, when budget kind of comes around, when we're kind of compiling that. So like in July or August, I think that was when we were going to do it kind of with the budget. But if you'd like it before then, I can do it.
No, that's fine. I just, I keep seeing our fund balance going up and I'm wondering if some of that ought to be instead going to capital improvement fund,
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Okay.
so we thank you to staff because it jogged my memory. We were trying to discuss when would be the best time to have that discussion with council. We've tried probably a little bit closer to budget season, so then we wouldn't have to have it twice.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds fine. I just want to make sure it's out there to talk about.
Right.
The other question I saw from the budget was it looked like we only spent 50% of the amount we had budgeted for administrative. Was there anything in particular we didn't get done, or, why was that so far under what we had budgeted?
So I thought maybe I put this in my memo, and I apologize if I didn't. We put the full amount of the ARPA money, so the 1.5 million.
Okay.
And so we didn't spend everything. So that's why it was so much higher this year, but that's also why we didn't spend it all. And I also only recognized about half of the revenue. So we'll wrap that up next year. It's just moving into next year. So
Okay. Maybe I just didn't put those pieces together that was relating to the administrative line,
and I get in my nerdism and kind of get focused. So I apologize.
Okay, thanks. That helps. I just wanted to bring up, I know Randy's not there, but Mr. Lovato called me this week and he's concerned that he hasn't seen any police patrols lately in his neighborhood, which, is on Kenosha, the Kenosha and Bryant area there. And he also was looking for an update on the status of the apartments that had a fire up in his neighborhood. So if we could follow up on those items, I would appreciate it. And then I was going to go to the South Suburban Parks and Recreation Draft Master Plan presentation this week, but I was sick, so I didn't go to that. I don't know, City Manager, have you seen a copy of that draft come out?
I haven't personally seen it, but I know our staff is in touch with South Suburban staff on that and is tied into that loop. So I'm not quite sure if they've distributed. I think that they've been doing it at a staff level, but maybe not publicly quite yet.
Okay, well, they launched it to electeds this week. So I wonder if somebody could track down a copy of that and send it out to council.
Absolutely.
Okay, great. That's it. That's all I have. Thank you. So can move on to council members' choice. Go ahead, Councilmember Daigle.
The mic on?
I did not attend the Dr. Cog meeting last week because I also had a cold and didn't want to share. So however, it's online if any of you want to go and look and read all however many hundreds of pages of notes that has developed. And then the other thing, I received the city magazine and activities guide for Inglewood. And I'm wondering, I don't know, can you see that? If you can't, if maybe that would be an answer to the newspaper. It has, it's got different tabs in it. There's a tab for what's going on in the recreation facility. So there's, the costs and different programs that they're having. There's a library one. There's, of course, they have their aquatics because they have a pool over there. Then there's adult fitness, all kinds of different things, places to eat, what to eat, different activities that they're going to be doing, park events and what have you. So it's kind of cool. I don't know why it actually came to my grandson. Not really sure, but it came to my address. So I thought it was kind of nifty. And maybe that could be, a way to get stuff out to community members. I don't know. But I thought it would be kind of a nifty.
Do you mean in that publication?
Or, maybe doing one of our own. I don't know if we could do one of our own.
Well, they do that
or
quarterly.
They do it quarterly. We could
Yeah.
do it annually or biannually even.
Like an annual report kind of a thing.
Yeah, and then maybe would have, when we're going to have our Park of Blues or when Sheridan Celebrates happens, or, some of the events that's happening at the VFW and the library and those kinds of things. Just a thought.
Okay.
Sally.
You're welcome.
Anybody else from council who has anything to share? Go ahead, Councilmember Whitaker.
Yeah, I just figured, love it or hate it, this might be a good time to mention the photo radar and red light camera enforcement. It's worth mentioning that they're not unconstitutional. Hundreds of cities across the US use these enforcement tools, including Denver, Boulder, and Fort Collins. Sheridan strictly adheres to the state's statutes that govern the use of photo radar and red light cameras. All fines are set by the state statute. Numerous studies have shown that photo radar and photo red light cameras reduce speeding and serious accidents. Sheridan holds photo radar and red light court once per month where people can challenge violations. But we average less than 10 challenges a month.
Thank you.
Can I add to that?
Yeah.
I can tell you that the photo radar is stationed in school district zones on Lowell, over here on Federal, and then over by Alice Terry. We've had 5 children in the last, I've been on school board for, oh my gosh, 13 years or something like that. And in those years, 5 children have been hit by cars in school zones by vehicles that were speeding. So I'm all for it myself. If you don't want, if you have an issue with them, like, I think it was Mr. Fleur that had said one time, if you have an issue with having your picture taken, then don't speed. I do believe that we had the police chief run a report. It's been several years ago, and the average ticket was for, I believe it was 52 miles per hour in a school zone, which means if you know anything about averaging, there was much higher, much faster speeds in those zones at that time. So I'm all for it. Keep our kids safe. They only put them in school zones. So, and if you have a problem with it, I will.
Thank you both for your comments. Any other council members who want to share anything tonight? I don't see anything. Okay, we'll move on to public comment. Public comments will not exceed 30 minutes and we'll have 3 minutes per speaker. We're going to start with the people who signed up in the room. The first person on the list is John Smith.
Hello. The first thing that I would like to address is the last time that we were here, Mr. Whitaker's girlfriend or fiance. I watched one of her public comments that she made prior, and she said that she is a free speech absolutist, but that you must use decorum when exercising your free speech. Decorum is defined as behavior in keeping with good taste. So I was just wanted to ask everyone, she's not here, but if she believes that decorum is bumping into my girlfriend several times, blocking her camera, she actually grabbed it and pulled it down and broke the gimbal.
That's wrong.
Excuse me, this is not your time to talk.
That's wrong.
And she actually committed harassment, CRS 18-9-111, subsection C, strikes, shoves, kicks, or otherwise subjects to physical contact. So that's funny that, you know, she was the one that was assaulting my girlfriend, essentially. And, but she wants to use decorum. I'd like to also talk about this administrative order. Is my time getting paused here?
It's your friend.
It's still running. You're still on. Go ahead. What's the issue? Is there something going on here?
I'd like to address this administrative order that says that in accordance with the authority granted to the city manager by pursuant section 7.3 of the Sheridan Home Rule Charter, So I don't know if you guys have read section 7.3. Mr. Whitaker says he did, but it does say that subsection C, establish with city council approval and implement personnel rules and regulations for city employees. That is the authority that Mr. Granberry is claiming that he has to write this order. Keyword here, regulations for city employees, not for the citizens. You're not a legislator. Okay. And it says here that with city council approval, and there's actually no public record of you guys voting on this. So you guys have to approve this order. So you guys aren't doing your job correctly. And real quick, I wanted to talk also about, Mr. Whitaker, you said that it's not unconstitutional. There's been several jurisdictions that have actually gotten rid of those because they are unconstitutional. It doesn't grant you your Sixth Amendment right to face your accuser. And they don't actually keep speeding down. I believe it was in Montana in 1995. They actually got rid of a bunch of speed limits, and they found that there was actually zero increase in fatalities from speeding, because it's actually true that people will use common sense. And just because there's not a law doesn't mean people are going to drive 60 down Broadway, right? And then people that are going to violate that anyways, we're going to speed regardless of whether there's a speed limit or not. So that's actually totally not true, Mr. Whitaker. In fact, the way that a lot of engineers decide the speed limits is they take a measurement of everyone's speed. They take the top 10% that's going the fastest and take them out, and the bottom 10% that's going the slowest and take them out. And then they average everyone else's speed, because if everyone's traveling roughly the same speed, that's what makes the road safe. But people are going to drive the way they're going to drive regardless if there's a speed limit. So I just wondering, Martinez, if I bump into a bunch of people here, all your friends, are you going to arrest me, or is that going to be cool like you let his girlfriend do?
Your time is up, sir. Next up, we have F in reality.
Hello, everyone. I'm really upset that I missed the pizza last time. So I came today. It's all right.
Got to show up, man.
I guess so. Here I am. My friends and family don't carry guns to conduct government business. They don't act scared for their lives hiding behind people with guns either. My friends carry cameras and pocket constitutions, and they act brave. Unarmed, asking you to simply do your jobs, and that is met with violence. It's met with a gang of thugs and all their friends and family acting thuggish alongside of them, attempting to create a deadly encounter with unarmed, nonviolent activists. None of us are violent. In fact, all the evidence for that claim is available to you with a free YouTube subscription. Hundreds of hours where you can watch all these people and how they never accomplish their goals with threats of violence. And they never carry out any acts of violence. So let's all admit that the fear being claimed to generate a violent encounter is being manufactured. It's not reality. You all better get your acts together immediately. Stand up for what's right, drop all the charges against the people you arrested, and destroy that administrative order that is unconstitutional and was put in place by someone who has no right to pass laws or rules for anyone that is not a Sheridan employee. Limiting who can speak is only making this process take longer. If any of you have the guts to do what's right, now's the time to do better. Elevate humanity. Show what you're made of, because so far no one's impressed by how you've handled this situation. Except your friends and family, of course.
And the residents of Sheridan.
I live here
Excuse
too.
me, don't interrupt the speaker, please.
Please. If you have any issue with having your pictures taken, don't work in government. We're allowed to take your pictures. We're allowed to film our encounters. We're allowed to exist. That's our right. And you guys can't infringe on it no matter how hard you try. We'll keep showing up. Here's a little math for you. There's 6,000 residents in Sheridan, only 2,000 registered to vote. I could easily get 200, 300 activists out here and we could canvass it in a weekend. It's not Denver, it's 2 city blocks. It would be too easy to show them what you guys are really up to around here. And I do live around here, Jay. Take it easy.
Thanks.
Next, we have Chris Hunt.
My name is Christopher Michael Hunt. I'd like to start off with a quote, please. The functionaries of every government have propensities to command at will the liberty and property of their constituents. There is no safe deposit for these freedoms, but with the people themselves, nor can they be safe with their freedoms without information. Where the press is free, every man able to read it, all is safe. That was said over 200 years ago by Thomas Jefferson. From over 200 years ago, is it possible that this brilliant architect of our republic could have foreseen what would happen in a small town of 6,000 men and women that is far removed from Independence Hall in Pennsylvania. More likely, this inspired statesman was giving a warning to future generations to hold tight to the liberties bought through the shedding of blood, the snapping of bones, the wrenching of flesh and sinew, the suffering of patriots, and the tears of their loved ones. By any measure, freedom and liberty has been bought at a terrible cost. Anyone who carelessly swipes aside the God-given rights of free men and women because they make another uncomfortable or annoyed or insulted or scared or whatever but hurt term you want to give it, cheapens the sacrifice of every patriot from the Revolutionary War to today. Every one of them. These unpatriotic people deserve neither deference nor attention, and they are either ignorant of liberty's high cost or, more likely, attempting to suppress them. Thus, when a public employee like the spoiled man-child seated to my left and seated next to a uniformed thug tries to infringe on the rights of free men and women, the press is necessary to view it, to document it, to investigate it, to disseminate it, and every citizen should loathe what they find out when they see it. In fact, investigating, documenting, and disseminating information on government actions, war inactions, finances, abuses, frauds, waste, and any and every other action of government is the very reason the First Amendment was written. How can the vital check on government's powerful functions be done if a gutless bureaucrat can arbitrarily and capriciously place limits on the First Amendment? Perhaps you don't care, or your indifference to the actions of these two employees seem to indicate that you do not. And let me also say, since I have 15 seconds left, nothing makes people more unsafe than gun-free zones. Look at the mass shootings that have happened around this country. Where have they occurred? Most of them in gun-free zones. Sic
Your time is
semper
up, sir.
tyrannis.
Thank you.
Next up is Blind American. Next, Blind American.
It's a shame I wasn't able to get here in time last time we did this to offer my comments, but I am here today. And it is irony that we are here at the medieval duchy of Sheridan. That's all it is a medieval duchy. We've got Granbury as the Duke and we've got Martinez as the general. But no one else that's elected is upholding their oath to the Constitution. Where is liberty? Where is it written that Sally over here gets to be the chaplain? Yeah, I don't care for your genuflecting. You can all observe a moment of silence if you want, but there is separation of religion and state in this country. So I am sick of that. I am also sick of the free pass that is given to an unelected representative and a uniformed thug who brought in his family last time to conflate violence on peaceful citizens who were peacefully exercising their constitutionally protected rights. I will also add, where is morality written in the Constitution? Where is morality written in the First Amendment? There's no words about morality in the First Amendment. You can go take your morality, you can shove it down the toilet for all I care, because there is no morality written on that paper. The administrative order that we have here, that is, for all intents and purposes, it should be written on toilet paper because it is nothing. It is an ordinance for the employees of the city, not for peaceful citizens who are coming here to exercise their constitutionally protected rights to film. I was here proudly on December 14th with 15 other free American men and women who are peacefully exercising their rights to film and do open records requests and to hold our public servants accountable, our elected public servants accountable in this little tiny little bit of a town here. I wouldn't even call it a city because of how small it is. But I will state this, that you should be ashamed of yourselves for not taking control of the situation, because this has got to change fast, because otherwise it's going to keep on spiraling down and spiraling down and spiraling down and spiraling down. And the Martinez crime family is going to continue like this, get this escalated to inflict harm on peaceful Americans who are exercising their rights. Thank you.
Next, we have Reagan.
Hello again, my name is Regan. Right to the point, facts on the record. Number one, and I quote, with added sick quote for a grammatical error. The actions of Denver Metro Audits and Benson could have dire consequences, and their actions must be curtailed before a deadly encounter is unnecessarily forced on officers. End quote. This was written by a city of Sheridan employee by the name of Jeffrey Martinez in a 3-page victim impact statement where Jeffrey attempts to display himself as a victim of a crime to the Arapahoe County DA's office, yet he fails miserably at defining what crime he's referring to. This is called false reporting, resulting in departing from the truth. Aside from the nonsense in supporting an employee that lies, you, City Council, are supporting an employee that is making physical threats to use force on law-abiding citizens who have simply offended him with their speech. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, whose sole purpose, you think, is to protect bad actors within your city government. You've made it more than clear your interest in service to a citizenry is dependent on being accepted into the Granberry Martinez club of thugs, where instigators and perpetrators of violence are lifted up in celebration and prayer, Sally, and accolades for a job well done. Shame on you and shame on all of you. I suppose Jeffrey and Devin have failed to inform you that there is in fact an ongoing criminal investigation into the city's police department concerning very troubling communications. Somebody's got their head down over there. Well, let me be the first to tell you, there is. In fact, there is. Mayor, perhaps you should demand your $185,000 a year city manager and his expensive town attorney, Bill Hayashi, into an executive session on the matter, because once again, the legal liability on the hook to taxpayers for this city's bad behavior is going to be a very important and embarrassing topic of conversation. Number 2 point I'd like to bring up as it relates to facts on the record. Were you aware that your municipal judge threatened to throw me in jail for 60 days, citing contempt for asking him a question after he and his court clerk asked me if I had any questions while I was silently observing his courtroom? Certainly the court record would reveal that, right? Yeah, I did that records request, and guess what? Bill Hayashi is working for the police department, and it's now part of a Criminal Justice Records Act, the only court record in the state of Colorado that just magically fell under a Colorado Criminal Justice Records Act to hide. What's the problem, Sheridan?
Your
What you
time is
hiding?
up.
Boom.
Time
You
is up.
suck.
Next, we have Randy. Randy.
This is my first time in your city council meeting, and you guys brought me here by the ridiculous nature of you guys not protecting the First Amendment of the Constitution of the United States. You, Sally, you read a prayer before this. How would you like to be arrested for reading that prayer? at the city council meeting? How would you like your First Amendment rights violated, thrown in a cage, searched in your private areas while you're thrown in a cage by these two pieces of crap thugs over here who don't even understand that you don't even have privacy in a public area? If you want privacy, you have to make the privacy, Granberry, you stupid, stupid man. You don't understand the First Amendment of the Constitution? Martinez, you don't understand free press? Do you know that sets us aside from all the crappy nations in this world? North Korea, what happens to you if you go film in public in North Korea? You get thrown in a cage. What happens if you record in public in Venezuela or Russia? What happens in those countries without free press? Free press is a very, very, very important part of this Constitution. And you guys don't allow people to film in a public area? What the hell is wrong with you two? You are absolutely ridiculously stupid and you need to find new jobs. Here's the thing. These videos, they're gonna last forever. And your family right now might be supporting you, giving you pats on the back, but your great-grandchildren, your great-great-grandchildren are gonna watch these videos and think, damn, Devin Granberry is a piece of crap and I don't want to associate with him as a member of my family. Same with you, Martinez. Your great-great-grandchildren are gonna watch these videos hundreds of years from now and realize what a piece of crap both of you are. And I just want to let everybody know, today is a national holiday. Every day is a national holiday. Happy Fuck the Cops Day.
Next we have Sal. Sal?
Thank you very much. Wow, we had an interesting meeting last time we were here when we had basically came here to use our right and exercise our freedom of assembly that's safeguarded by the First Amendment. As soon as we came in here, we were instigated by Martinez's family. We were assaulted by Whitaker's girlfriend.
Ridiculous.
We were not, excuse me.
It is.
Like
Excuse
again,
me.
when we came in, we were courteous, we were professional, we were quiet. His family were the ones that instigated from the get-go. From the get-go. We have multiple angles of it happening. It is a shame how Desiree sitting right there ignoring everybody that has came up here. She's too busy doing her, I don't know what on her computer. And I appreciate you guys at least listening to us. I appreciate the veterans that have died for us to do what we're doing right now, and our freedom to express our feelings towards a chief that completely failed us last time. He sat there and escalated and not de-escalated any situation. His brother was side by side with the police when they were pushing us out, when they told us we were going to be arrested for trespassing, but yet he is allowed to come back inside the building when we were all supposedly going to be trespassed. That is unconstitutional. It is ridiculous. It's embarrassing how you're going to let an officer dictate how to run your city. The city manager is going to end up bankrupt in this city. You just wait. It's just bound to happen. We came in here in peace. We came in here not wanting any type of violence. And from the get-go, this gentleman started everybody that came up talking over them, talking over us, talking over everybody. And you guys just sat there and allowed it. Not you, but you definitely did. You definitely allowed it to happen. So it is very, I cannot imagine how you guys sleep in the morning, waking up, thinking that Sheridan is a sovereign city that anybody that drives from New York to California can stop in Sheridan and be treated as a citizen because they don't live in Sheridan. That's ridiculous. It's America as a whole, the whole United States. It's not just Sheridan. Sheridan will be, mark my words, bankrupt if this continues to be a trend. It needs to stop, Madam Mayor, please. It needs to stop. And again, if you want privacy, create it. don't expect it. You're a council member, I appreciate your effort, your time, but it's ridiculous what went on last time. Thank you very much.
Next up, we have Pete Mitchell. Pete Mitchell.
So I'd just like to start off by saying that none of you are allowed to look at me. Put your head down, right? That's legal. I can tell you to do that, right? No, I can't. Why? Because I have no expectation of privacy in public. Period. End of sentence. And you know, it's funny. I know my rights. And to date, the 10th Circuit Court, of which Colorado is a part, in fact, it resides right here in Denver, okay, has affirmed the rights of citizens to film our public officials in the performance of their duties. The 10th has stated the right for the record falls squarely, and I'm quoting now, falls squarely within the First Amendment's core purpose to protect free and robust discussion of public affairs, hold government accountable, and check abuse of power. Let's discuss abuse of power. Abuse of power in its simplest form is the misuse of a position or power or a position of power to take advantage of individuals, organizations, or governments. The policy that Granberry put in place is a perfect example of an abuse of power. It states that you all have to vote on this policy before it can be put into place. Yet there's nothing in any of the minutes from the time before that was put in place till now where not one vote has been taken place on this. So therefore, he has abused his power. He has the ability as city manager to enforce city council ordinances, resolutions, policies, and other directives. 2, work with all department heads to administer policies and directives. Now I'm paraphrasing these down. 3, establish with the city council approval and implement personal rules and regulations for city employees. 4, cause a proposed budget. 5, prepare and submit reports of all financials monthly and yearly. 6, supervise all city departments and employees. 7, employ and dismiss all city employees. 8, attend city council meetings in an advisory role only. 9, be responsible for informing the public on city functions and activities. And 10, to perform such other duties as prescribed by this charter or as required by the council and not inconsistent with this charter or any codes, ordinance, or laws. Well, let's see. The supreme law of the land would be the U.S. Constitution. The very First Amendment to that Constitution has 5 protections: speech, religion, freedom of press, freedom to redress our government, and freedom to assemble. And everybody that says just because they think I don't live in this town that I don't have the right to be here, y'all take federal money. I have the right to redress you.
All right. Next we have Alex Aguilera.
Thank you all. Fellow members of the public and board members of the Sheridan City Council, Police Chief Martinez, Mayor Granberry, I have one question for you. What in God's name is going on here? What is going on? Really? You're better than this. I can see it. You're better than this. And we had this conversation, Chief. I'd like for you all to take a moment to step out of the nonsense and madness going on at this time and take a brief 30,000-foot view of the issue at hand. I know it's hard to do so when you're caught up in the ordeal. Close your eyes for a second if you have the ability to do so, and think about where you are right now and what exactly you're doing. If you are a city council member, a police chief, or a town mayor, and have the capacity and power to stop this nonsense, shame on you for not having the gall to do so and for being the first to speak up. If you're a member of the public, but you're really here on behalf of a council member or police officer or other city staff, I urge you to value yourself as a professional and individual, as well as a human being enough to be able to use your intellect to solve such a simple issue. If you're a camera person, exercising your free rights and contesting things you don't believe in, ask yourself if there's room to improve yourself and the way you conduct yourself in your capacity, regardless of how many tyrannical and out of control publicly funded employees you've encountered. I'm mad, guys. You see, none of us are perfect. None of us. In the Bible, it says, let he who has no sins cast the first stone, right? We got to do better than this. We are adults. Shame on all of us. Everybody here who hasn't done anything to fix this problem, shame on you. May your legacy contain better than this, because this is not the hill you die on. And every single one of you, I think, knows that. These folks have the right to record in public. If you don't like it, create privacy, invest in technology like a freaking window film that disallows that to be recorded. Train your staff on how to interact with First Amendment auditors. You may not like it as much as I don't like red lights, but we got to abide. We got to have a constitution that allows us to follow rules, laws. And this is not it. Getting into a petty dick measuring contest over who's this isn't it. This isn't the hill to die on. We agreed on just about every topic that we spoke about when we sat down, Chief. And I think you're a reasonable man. And I think the majority of the people in this building are reasonable people. Yet I walked in here and I'm seeing a dick measuring contest that does not need to take place anymore. Do better, brother. Do better. Don't get pulled into things you don't want to get pulled into. Thank you.
Next, we have Indira Guzman.
Madam Mayor, we're out of time.
Oh, okay. Thank you, everybody, for your comments tonight. And we'll adjourn this regular meeting at 7:55 p.m. And we're going to go right into our Sheridan Redevelopment Agency meeting. I'll call to order this meeting of the Sheridan Redevelopment Agency for February 27th, 2023. We still have
Just
all,
give me 1 moment to get the software up.
sure.
Council, you might have to sign in again on the open meeting.
Thanks, you guys. I tried.
Good to see you guys. Good to see you.
Okay, the meeting has been loaded. Go ahead and connect.
Thanks.
That's good. Yep.
We have roll call, please.
Why is this such a-
You won't need that.
Thanks, you guys, for coming.
Hey, you as well. Yeah.
Whenever we're ready for roll call, it's hard for me to tell what's happening.
Councilmember Daigle, can you go ahead and
Love to
sign
hear
in?
you. Hi, man. Try it again. Try it again, Sally.
Okay, we're moving on our meetings now, please, everybody. Thank you. Okay, we're okay, we're moving on with our meeting now.
Thanks, Devin.
Now Gay should be able to do, yep, there we go. We got everybody?
Missing Daigle.
Councilmember Daigle, can you go ahead and mark present?
All right, we have all board members present. First item is the approval of the minutes of the SRA regular meeting of January 23rd, 2023. And I've got a motion by Board Member Kelly, seconded by Board Member Smith. Anybody have any questions on the minutes? If not, let's vote. That motion is approved unanimously. Next are the financial reports. Receive and file the financial reports. Motions made by Board Member Stang and seconded by Board Member Smith. Any questions on the financials? Go ahead and vote. That motion is approved unanimously. Next, we have the approval of disbursements. Authorized disbursements that have been or will be made for expenses in the amount of $140,090.37 as referenced below. Legal expenses, none. Other professional services, $8,976.63. City support services, $130,378. Other expenses, $735.74. I have a motion by Board Member Smith and seconded by Board Member Daigle. Any discussion on the disbursements? Let's have a vote then. That motion is approved unanimously. New business Pinnacle report for January 2023.
Good evening, everyone. So where I am looking at is page 13. So have a little good news and bad news mixed in on my report this month, but looking at, we'll just start off on the variance analysis. I know I've said this before, our B bond payments were higher, so we are going to need to bring a 2022 budget amendment to you. I would like to wrap up all of the year-end entries and kind of have that first meet with the auditors the first week of April to make sure they don't have any adjustments. And then, so I'll bring that to you hopefully in April is when I'll bring it to you, just so that we don't have to do it twice or anything like that. So that's on the variance analysis. On the new retailers, moving down to Tuesday morning, we received a notification that that store is closing at River Point. We did reach out to Kimco. They had heard about it the day before we had, so they didn't have a much advance notice. They haven't heard when they're closing. So we've asked them if they do hear to let us know and vice versa. So as far as that, as far as looking at revenue projections, I did do some quick math on Tuesday morning. As far as making our debt service payments, the only thing that it will affect is possibly the B bond payments, which is, that is subordinate debt. So that's where we will have no problem paying our regular debt service payments. The good news is Five Below is actually working on taking over almost half of that building. And so hopefully we'll keep seeing that move. I'm going to do a little more research on Five Below to see as far as what their average sales are, to see if I can do some projections on that and based on when they will open. Excuse me. The other thing is the last item is Regal Theater. We did receive a Chapter 11 bankruptcy. They still remain open. We haven't heard that they're closing. So we're just going to keep an eye on that. Again, did some quick numbers if they would close for both the city and the SRA. I don't have concerns at this time. Again, with the SRA, it would just be the B bond payments. And as far as what they bring into the city, it isn't enough that we wouldn't be able to make our expenditure payments. So so if they would close. So that's where we're at with the retailers. Looking at our pledge revenues, for our first full month of this year, we were 4.88% higher. So always like that to see that it's always continues to grow. And I know you all love the graph, so I made it a bright blue so everyone can see that. Then going on down with everything. So filed our fourth quarter report with JP Morgan that was due. Again, the 2023 budget and the budget amendment were filed, and we are working fast and furiously on the audit. And so I don't foresee any problems with that, and that's scheduled the first week of April. So a lot of information, and so I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Teresa. I wanted to touch base again. I think a few months ago, I had asked whether we could do some modeling for when we finish or 2026, I guess is what I want to say. You know, when we get to the point where we take back the sales tax revenue.
And so and my thought that was with the capital discussion. That's when I was going to do that. Is in my brain. So that's what I thought I was going to do, is kind of in 2029 when those are paid off, then what that means, what it looks like for the city and getting that back. So I was going to be kind of doing those projections. So but I am happy to do that. You know, I'm always excited to run numbers. So
yeah, I mean, what I'd love to have is, you know, if you can set something up that is a little model that we can keep using going forward, and you can adjust each year and see, you know, how that's looking as we get closer and closer to the day. You know, I think that would be a real benefit to people on subsequent councils as we get closer.
Absolutely. I can totally do that. So that'll make me happy. So, okay, I will do that I will bring that to the next month's meeting.
Yeah, if you have time. I know you're getting ready for audit, so if it gets too tight, that's not that urgent, you know. It's a few years away still.
But it's fun to run the numbers.
Yeah.
So yes.
But also to Teresa's point, you know, it will mesh well with our capital budget discussions as too, is like looking at that long term. It will absolutely mesh well. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Thank you. Anybody else have any new business? Okay, I don't see anybody looking like they have any, so.
Oh, Mayor, one other thing I just wanted to kind of reiterate. I know Teresa touched on it, but this isn't really new business, just following up on the updates on Tuesday morning. I think that we were under the impression that they were looking at downsizing Tuesday morning, splitting space with Five Below. And I think that was the same impression that Kimco was under. And so all reports that we got from them is that it was as much surprise to them as it was to us when kind of everybody learned about it in the paper at the same time. So or in the news. So yeah.
Okay. If there's nothing else, we'll adjourn for tonight. Thank you, everybody. It's 8:07 p.m.
Thank you. Good night.
Y'all have a
Thanks,
good
everyone.
evening.
Thank you, Teresa.